Can you imagine what it was like for Mary to receive the angel Gabriel's message that she was going to be the mother of the Son of the Most High? After her initial response of, "I'm the Lord's servant, let it be to me as you say," she must have gone away with more questions than answers. While this announcement was unparalleled in its grandeur, it was alarmingly short on details. How would she deliver this delicate news to Joseph or to her parents? And longer-range questions, how were they to be parents to the Son of God? Who's qualified for that role? And what did the angel mean that Jesus would be given the throne of David and that he would reign over Israel forever? But isn't that just like God? He gives us wonderful, seemingly impossible promises and then leaves us wondering how he will fulfill them in our lives. So there are two aspects to this. There's the wondering and there's the waiting. For Mary, of course, there was the 9 months waiting for her to see her child, and then there was waiting for God to fulfill the promise that Jesus would reign forever. If you're anything like me during these times of the pandemic, you've been spending a lot of time wondering and waiting. At times you may have felt, as I have, that you're kind of stumbling along in the dark, feeling your way along the wall. God promises that his word is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. But that light doesn't illuminate very far down the path, does it? But as I meditate on that verse, I see the wisdom of God in giving us just enough light for our next step of obedience. We would be too overwhelmed if we could see everything in our future. Imagine if Mary would have known the circumstances of where she would give birth. Imagine if she would have known that she and Joseph and the baby would have to flee to Egypt to protect Jesus' life. And imagine if she knew that Jesus would eventually be tried and convicted in an unjust and illegal trial, and that she would watch him die the excruciating death of crucifixion. If she knew all that, she may not have so graciously said, "I am your servant, let it be to me as you say." Wondering and waiting. Advent is all about waiting, waiting for the promised newness. The whole tenor of Advent is that God may act in us and through us and beyond us more than we imagined, because newness is on the way. But what do we do while we are wondering and waiting, while this newness is on the way? If you look at Luke 1:49, Mary's response is, "For he, the mighty one, is holy, and he has done great things for me." She recounts in the following verses in prayer all that God has done, reminding herself that God would continue to be faithful. And this is what Jesus has been teaching me during this time of wondering and waiting. I have found that praying through a few Psalms a day, reviewing God's promises, being reminded of God's faithfulness, and yes, praying the laments as well of the psalmist, has helped me to acknowledge God's sovereignty in our world and in the impossible situations in my own life, and trust him as I look toward the unknowns of the future. Let me read a few verses from Psalm 37 that God has been using to help me during these times of wondering and waiting. "Be still in the presence of the Lord and wait patiently for him to act. Don't worry about evil people who prosper or fret about their wicked schemes. Don't be impatient for the Lord to act. Travel steadily upon his path. He will honor you, giving you the land." I know God is making all things new, and I want to work alongside him to usher in this newness. I want to end with a quote from Eugene Peterson. "Mary's prayer takes us into an expansive world of God's promises that are in the process of being fulfilled. Prayer enlarges our imagination and makes us grateful, joyful participants in what has been and what is yet to come. Let's be like Mary, the person who hears and receives, believes and submits to the word that conceives Christ in us."